gentle light shimmered across the highest plane of Olympus, a silent realm beyond mortal reach, where an ethereal loom stood, glinting with threads of gold and silver. Beside this loom stood the goddess of memory, known to all immortals and a select few mortals as Nimi. Her hair, a cascade of moonlit silver, draped over her shoulders, and her eyes shone with a soft luminescence, capturing visions of the past. From time immemorial, Neme had gathered recollections, both fleeting and profound, weaving them into a grand tapestry, a testament to mortal experiences that bridged the human world and the divine. Unlike other deities who craved recognition and offerings in their temples, Neme cherished solitude. She existed for the sake of remembrance itself, dedicated to preserving moments that mortals discarded or forgot. While her sisters, the Muses, fostered artistry, science, and the wonders of inspiration, Nimi's domain was more subtle and elusive. She watched over each human from birth to death, gathering strands of memory, fragile as spider silk, to record and protect their essence for eternity. Each memory, bright or dark, contained a scattering of mortal hearts, laughter at a marketplace, sorrow at a farewell, regret over a harshly spoken word, or euphoria beneath a starlit sky. She collected them all, poised on her divine loom, weaving them into patterns that shimmered with truth and emotion. On this particular night, Numi worked methodically, her hands moving in a gentle, practiced rhythm. A silver bobbin in her left hand carried the bright recollections' first steps, blossoming friendships, wedding celebrations, while a golden bobbin in her right reeled out the darker strands of grief and guilt. Her weaving was balanced and precise, forming a mosaic of mortal experiences that rose above pettiness and sorrow, transforming them into lessons that carried meaning. In her tapestry, the joy and pain of humanity intertwined, forging an eternal dance that celebrated the fragile, radiant spark of life. However, in the mortal realm below, people seldom realized that their memories were being carefully observed and preserved. The ancient Greeks attributed memory's power to the titan Mnemosyne, but hardly anyone knew of the subtle mistress behind the scenes, the goddess who truly wove the threads of recollection. Nemi accepted this anonymity. She believed that humans, enamored with the daily scramble and ephemeral passions, did not need to know her name. Her goal was not veneration. It was the hope that, one day, a yearning soul might seek a forgotten truth or a lost wisdom in the quiet recesses of memory. Then, through her tapestry, she might grant them the clarity and insight they needed. Far below Olympus, in an olive grove near the coastal city of Phocis, a young storyteller named Lyra gazed up at the night sky. Not far from her sat a musician, Pyrrhos, tuning his lyre. Lyra's eyes were filled with restless wonder, as if she sensed, somehow, that secrets drifted just beyond her reach. She yearned to recount heroics of gods and mortals with more vividness, to capture human experience in an epic that would live in the hearts of her people long after she was gone. Yet she was continually frustrated, for the old tales had been told and retold countless times, and she feared she had nothing new to offer. Whenever she reached for inspiration, her thoughts became a tangle of borrowed phrases and stale allusions, sliding from her mind like water through cupped hands. Pyrrhos played a gentle refrain on his lyre, breaking the silence. "Your silence weighs on me," he said. "Where are your words, Lyra? You have never been speechless before." She smiled ruefully. "I feel as though I stand on a threshold, on the brink of a discovery that I can never grasp. There is a goddess that calls to me, urging me to remember something I do not even know I have forgotten." Above them, unseen, Neem listened. Her loom vibrated with the tension of unwoven threads corresponding to Lyra's half-formed memories. Something in the mortal's yearning moved Neem's heart. She sensed a flame of devotion in Lyra that might become a worthy addition to the fabric of recollections. With a faint whisper that brushed the mortal's thoughts, Nemi let a single silver thread descend, carrying the faint echo of ancestral stories. That night, Lyra dreamed of a grand hall where countless tapestries hung, each depicting lives she did not recognize but felt somehow she intimately understood. She strolled among them, glimpsing children playing, soldiers weeping after battle, lovers embracing beneath the moon. Each scene shimmered with luminous detail, tiny gestures, subtle expressions, and half-remembered words. Then she saw the goddess, tall and radiant in the moonlit hall, beckoning her forward. "I keep this for you," the goddess said, her voice as soft as distant flutes. In her hands was a small skein of silver thread, warm to the touch. Before Lyra could speak, the vision dissolved into daybreak. When she awoke, she was consumed with a desire to find the source of that vision. She felt sure there existed a place, an impossibly transcendent realm or a hidden shrine, where the essence of humanity's memories was guarded. She confided her dream to Pyrrhus, who listened with rapt attention. "You have been chosen," he said, hardly daring to believe his own words. "Who knows what wonders you may discover? You must seek it, Lyra. Follow this calling, for the dream might vanish if you wait." And so Lyra and Pyrrhus set forth on a journey across the breadth of their land, guided by an urgency that neither could adequately explain. They travelled through mountain passes where the wind whistled in ancient tongues, then ventured into hushed valleys where temples stood in partial ruin, the stones cracked by time and creeping vines. Everywhere they went, Lyra performed tales both old and new, while Pyrrhus's music lent the stories an otherworldly resonance. In each audience, an old man's tear at the mention of lost love, a young mother's rare smile, a soldier's trembling hand at the recollection of war. These small, intricate details tugged at the silver thread in Lyra's heart, drawing her ever closer to the intangible realm. Meanwhile, Neme continued her work. She felt Lyra's footsteps approaching regions of Greece where mortal minds seldom wandered. With each day, the tapestry she wove revealed that memory was stirring across the land. Ordinary people recalled incidents from childhood they had buried deep. Old allies reconnected, and enemies paused before waging violence, haunted by recollections of war's cost. Whisper by whisper, memory seeped into mortal hearts. Over centuries, Nemi had learned that such revelations often came with burdens. Some mortals, confronted with painful recollections, turned bitter or violent. Others, when reminded of old hopes, found new strength. Neme's tapestry was never partial. It held the reflection of all that mortals chose to leave behind or conceal. In the end, it rested upon each individual how they might respond when confronted by the echo of memory. Word of a mysterious travelling bard and musician reached the gates of Delphi, a sacred site known for its oracle and pious devotion to Apollo. Intrigued, many pilgrims at Delphi came to listen to Lyra sing. Her voice soared, describing heroic labours and tragic downfalls with an intensity that caused her listeners to recall their own personal joys and griefs. Young novices bowed their heads in awe, while wise priestesses wondered if there was a lingering trace of divine inspiration in her words. Pyrrhus's music twined around Lyra's verses, rich and haunting like a half-remembered lullaby that pressed upon the heart. One evening, after the last echoes of the performance faded, an elder priestess approached with trembling steps. "Child, you carry a spark of Neme's truth within you," she said. "Our oracle once hinted that a mortal might be chosen to witness the realm of memory. Are you that mortal?" Lyra felt her heart quicken. "I have seen visions in my dreams," she admitted. "They beckon me to find a tapestry, a goddess, some realm beyond my understanding, but I do not know how to reach it." "Forsake a shrine older than our city's foundations," replied the priestess. "It stands in a hidden glade where an ancient olive tree has the power to part mortal sight from divine. There you may find the path. Go, and may the gods guide you." The next morning, Lyra and Pyrrhus set off. The instructions led them away from the bustling oracles and priests. Through overgrown trails and dense thickets, twisting roots snagged their feet and brambles scraped their arms, but they pressed on, compelled by the resonance of a distant call. At last the undergrowth parted and they entered a secret glade. In its center rose a colossal olive tree with a trunk gnarled by the centuries, its branches spread wide like a protective mother's arms. Soft light filtered through the leaves, painting the ground with gold and green. There was an air of reverence in that space, as though even the wind dared not speak too loudly. Standing before this ancient tree, Lyra placed her palm against the bark. She could feel a faint vibration running beneath the wood, as if the trunk was an extension of something infinitely more vast. A sense of humility swept over her. From the corner of her eye, she spied a small opening between the roots, appearing part shadow, part light. Taking a deep breath, she crouched and eased herself into the tunnel, Pyrrha's following close behind. The darkness wrapped around them, and for a moment she feared they were descending into an endless burrow. Yet after only a few paces, they emerged into a realm of perpetual moonlight. This new place was quiet, yet pulsing with understated magic. Phantasmal shapes drifted among tall columns, apparitions of memories not fully claimed, and the sky shimmered as if 1,000 half-forgotten stars were illuminating it. Before them stood Neme's loom, a massive structure, carved from an otherworldly metal that glowed with both silver and gold. Threads stretched from a vast spool, swirling in a ghostly tapestry that captured the ephemeral reflections of mortal. There, at the loom's side, stood Neme. Her form was graceful, clad in a flowing robe of deep violet. Her expression was grave, yet suffused with compassion. "You have traveled far," the goddess said to Lyra, her voice echoing in the hushed space. "I have watched your steps, your dreams, and the yearning that brought you here. Now that you have come, do you understand what it is you seek?" Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes. "I do not fully know, goddess. My dream led me to this place, stirring in me a longing to witness the truths of memory. I hoped to discover new stories, glimpses of human lives that vanish into oblivion. But now, standing here, I realize I wish to preserve it all, so that no moment, no person, is ever truly lost." Quietly, Nime turned toward the tapestry. "All that mortals experience is here," she said. "Delights and sorrows, triumphs and sins, every fragment of memory. It is a responsibility both beautiful and burdensome. You desire to protect these recollections from being lost, but be aware that full remembrance can be difficult for mortals to bear. Memories can heal, but they can also wound." With a solemn nod, Lyra stepped forward, letting her fingers brush against a shimmering thread. Instantly, visions cascaded through her mind. A fisherman's pride at his first catch, a widow's tears in the night, a child learning to write in the dust, lovers twirling beneath a festival's torches. Lyra gasped, overwhelmed by the torrent of experiences surging through her. She staggered back, her eyes filled with awe. Pyrrhus caught her, concern etched in his features. The goddess offered a faint smile of understanding. "This moment can burn one's consciousness like the sun. I alone bear the tapestry's entirety. But with time I can teach you to weave a thread of memory into story. Through your voice and music, mortals will recall the lessons they need without suffering the burden of unfiltered recollection." But before Nimi could instruct her, a jarring tremor rippled across the tapestry. A harsh tear grew along the golden weft. An alarm flashed in Nime's eyes. Instantly she grasped the shimmering threads, attempting to mend the gap, but it widened, unraveling entire sequences of memory. Distant screams of forgotten regrets and tragedies echoed like faint thunder. Lyra felt a chill course through the realm, as though an invading force threatened everything precious. "It is Phobeter, the trickster of dread," Nime murmured, voice tight with effort, "seeks to shatter memory by distorting it into nightmares. If he succeeds, mortals will know only fear where once there was learning. Their recollections will become twisted illusions, breeding chaos and despair. Even while she spoke, the tear in the tapestry expanded, distorting scenes of hope into horrors. The fisherman drowned in nightmares of endless storms. The widow found herself locked in a cold, endless night that offered no comfort. Children forgot wonder and remembered only terror. Nemel's delicate hold on human stories was threatened. Lyra recovered her composure. "We can't stand idle," she cried. "Show me, goddess, how to weave. Let me help you repair what is broken." Pyrrhus set his lyre down, eyes stern but resolute. "I will sing and play if that helps hold the fabric together. Music can restore faith in lonely hearts." Nodding, Nemine guided Lyra's hands to the loom. "Take the bobbin of silver thread, for it holds the essence of cherished moments. Let your heart remember the significance of joy, perseverance, and compassion." Then she turned to Pyrrhus. "Your music must guide the mortal spirit away from fear. Each chord, each note must remind them of love, courage, and unity." While Pyrrhus softly plucked at the strings of his lyre, a tentative melody emerged into the moonlit air, something haunting and yet undeniably hopeful. At the loom, Lyra focused on the bobbin, channeling what scant knowledge she had gleaned from her visions and from the goddess. Together, they began to mend the tapestry. As Lyra wove the silver thread, she called forth stories she had witnessed and heard, of a farmhand who discovered a wild orphaned fawn and tended it back to health, of lovers separated by war but reunited by faith, of a father's patient care in teaching his child to speak. She breathed words of these memories into the thread, giving expression to the best hopes and smallest kindnesses. Meanwhile, Pyrrhus's music grew bolder, a gentle counterpoint that held the silver thread steady, defying the insidious fear that threatened to warp the loom. A shadow flickered across the moonlit columns as Phobetor arrived. Materializing as a gaunt shape of swirling shadows, he hissed at the goddess and her companions. "Fools!" he spat. "You cling to illusions. I bring truth. All humans fear the darkness, and I shall feed upon it." His claw-like tendrils stabbed at the tapestry, further widening the tear. Memories congealed into nightmares, unraveling the silver threads Lyra had just placed. Scorched by new waves of terror, she felt her resolve falter. What if the world truly was drowning in shadows, and memory merely an illusion to comfort mortal minds? Sensing her doubt, Nemi's voice rang out, firm and glimmering like a beacon. "All illusions end, Phobetor. Fear is but one color in the grand mosaic of mortal experience. It may be potent, but it is not the only truth." The goddess seized her own spool of gold, weaving it into the tapestry to balance the silver thread. These golden fibers shone with the lessons learned from sorrow, the resilience gained from heartbreak, the unity forged from tragedy, and the empathy shaped by loss. The tapestry began to glisten anew, shifting from fragile to vibrant. Yet Phobetor persistently thrashed and tore with his shadowy tendrils. Lyra nearly buckled, real tears slipping down her face as she felt the shared anguish of countless souls. Steadying her hands, she forced herself to remember the fisherman's pride, the widow's courage when she rose each morning, the child's wonder on seeing a rainbow for the first time. Each recollection compelled her forward, weaving silver and gold in tandem. Pyrrhus's melody swelled, rising to a crescendo that shook the pillars. A glow radiated from the tapestry, casting back the swirling darkness. A piercing cry erupted from Phobetor as the threads startled him with the very essence of human memory, vibrant and layered with light, shadow, and unbreakable spirit. Fear was only a single note in the mortal symphony. Overpowered by this realization, the trickster recoiled, thrashing uncontrollably until he dissolved into a haze of scattered nightmares that disappeared in the corners of the realm. In the aftermath, the tear in the tapestry sealed itself with shimmering strands, leaving behind a lasting reflection of restored balance. Nemi sent a wave of soothing energy through the woven threads, ensuring that the memories would once again be intact. Exhausted but relieved, Lyra and Pyrrhos slumped against the loom, hearts pounding, gazes drifting over the newly reinforced tapestry. It now shone with an even deeper luminosity, reflecting not only the moments of mortal life, but the profound resilience that sprang from facing nightmares. "You have succeeded," Nem said quietly, kneeling beside them. She moved a glowing hand over their spirits, granting renewed strength. "Your faith and your compassion for the struggles of others have become part of the tapestry. Be proud. You have both given mortals a chance to rediscover their hope." Tears glistened in Lyra's eyes. "Goddess, I still wish to share these memories with humanity. They deserve to know that fear can be overcome, that shadows fall away in time. Will you teach me how to weave these threads into my stories, so mortals can carry their truth onward?" Nime nodded with gentle warmth. "What you ask is already within you. For the rest of your mortal days, you will carry this insight. You and Pyrrhos are free to roam the mortal realm, weaving these lessons through music and verse. When mortals hear your tales, the tapestry's echoes will stir within them, reminding them of their own joys and pains, urging them beyond fear." With that, the goddess extended a small skein of shimmering threads, part silver, part gold, and placed it in Lyra's hands. "Use it well. Let your words remind people of who they truly are." Then she brushed a hand over Pyrrhos' lyre, leaving faint sparkles that danced upon the strings. "Your music now resonates with memory's heartbeat. Use it for courage and unity, never for vanity." The realm began to swirl around Lyra and Pyrrhos, dissolving into light and silence, until once again they stood in the hidden glade by the ancient olive tree. Sunbeams began to banish the moonlit glow, and ordinary birdsong reasserted itself. The tree's leaves shimmered gently in the breeze, as if bidding them farewell. Though the tunnel back to Nime's domain had disappeared, each felt forever changed. They returned to Delphi, where they told their story, careful not to divulge every sacred detail, but to convey the lessons gleaned. Listeners found new hope in the bard's words. Soldiers laid down arms, if only for a short time, to recall the warmth of their home hearths. Grieving families found solace in remembering a beloved's laughter rather than just the pain of parting. And in the towns and villages that Lyra and Pyrrhos visited, the music and tales they shared planted seeds of remembrance in hearts that had long since grown numb. Nevertheless, the tapestry was an evolving entity, shaped by the mortal condition. Neme returned to her loom, ever vigilant, perpetually weaving new recollections, but now she did so with a fresh sense of faith, knowing that at least a few mortals might serve as emissaries, telling not only of monstrous foes and noble gods, but also of everyday heroes stitching their lives back together through family, friendship, and love. There was power in memory, the power to heal, to guide, and, at times, to challenge fear's dominion. And so the threads of Lyra and Pyrrhos blended with the millions of human stories the Nimmer had preserved. Their own journeys were stitched into the grand tapestry, signifying a testimony to memory's indomitable force. Every word they spoke, every note Pyrrhos played, rippled across the mortal world, kindling the embers of recollection. In taverns, in palace halls, and at cottage doorsteps, people heard of the hidden realm of memory, where even sorrow and fear found balance in joyful recollection. Entranced by the idea that their own private experiences weren't lost, but safeguarded by a compassionate goddess, mortals grew more reflective, more eager to learn from the past rather than flee it. Far away, on Olympus's calm heights, Neme continued her quiet duty. She knew that the clash with Phobetor would not be the last test of memory's light. Yet she felt secure in the knowledge that the tapestry was strong enough to endure new conflicts. The shining silver and gold threads remained unbroken. Thoughtful mortals like Lyra and Pyrrhos driven by a yearning to share wisdom and comfort, would persist in reflecting memory's deeper truth. Darkness and dread would recur, but so would bravery and resolve. Each moment interlaced into Nim's ever-growing, ever-glowing tapestry. And in that weaving she found, as she always had, the profound beauty of mortal life, that each memory, no matter how fleeting, was precious and worthy of preservation. For from such fragments did both songs and stories arise, stitching together the collective soul of humanity for all time.